Hello and welcome back to the Nurburgring pit lane. We are back and we are ready to go racing again, finally, for the 2020 season. The NLS has pulled out all the stops and is basically going to run the first major event in Europe since the whole COVID lockdown, quarantine, blah 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 thing. And they've got amazing entry, 141 cars, which is very impressive. I was probably expecting, an average grid size would be, I don't know, maybe 130, 120 cars, so I was thinking maybe we'd get 80 cars, 90 cars, something like that, but to have as many cars entered is brilliant to see. It shows everyone's so willing to get the world back up and running, including motorsport. So I think all eyes will be on the event for everyone to see what will happen, how things are going to happen, and yeah, hopefully in this video, as well as a bit of racing, I'm going to show you what the new normal will be when motorsport returns hopefully full-time later on this year. So yeah, there's a few key changes to this event. Obviously we're abiding by German rules at the moment to wear face masks whenever we go inside, so that means walking in and out of the garages. So this is actually Friday afternoon of NLS 1. There's nothing in the garages right now. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's also no scrutineering for kit. You have to sign that you will be using the correct kit, that's all in date and safe, etc. So you have to sign that. There's no driver's briefing, it's all done online, so you also, again, stops a big group of people coming together. And the pit lane is also a major talking point also, which we'll have a quick look through that at a little bit later on. And then other little things like issues out on circuit. It's mandatory for drivers to keep the helmet and balaclava on until the marshals can establish a safe working distance between them and the drivers. For example, if they have to try and extract a driver, that's going to be in close proximity. Also, the administration checks are all done by one team personnel member, so we give all our licenses to that team personnel member, sign all the documents and give those to the team personnel member, who will then submit it to the organisers. So again, it restricts the amount of people interacting over the event. Obviously another key thing is no fans, which is a great shame, but it's great that the NLS has such a brilliant live stream feed on YouTube that it can be seen pretty much anywhere very easily throughout the world. So I don't think fans will be able to they won't miss out on the action. They may miss out on the trackside sounds and smells and everything, but they'll at least get their racing fix by seeing it on the internet. Also Parc Ferme and the grid itself, that's going to be a restricted number of personnel also. So not a huge, there are some changes that are going to be quite different, but it's not massively game changing, I'd say, apart from the pit lane. So let's go have a look at that now, because I think that's going to be the biggest major factor, especially for an event trying to organise 140 cars, let alone maybe 25 or 30 cars that you would see in some events. So yeah, let's go check it out. So here you can see the pit entrance, or the garage entrance, on the right, and then you exit pits on the left garages. This is being pushed out of our pit garage, down the back of the lane, through the garage, into the normal pit lane, and then to the fuel station like normal, back out again, and then onto the circuit in the normal way. Then coming back into the pits through the normal practice day entrance, 40 kilometers an hour on entry, through the garage, back into the lane around the back of the garages, all the way down to the end, around the roundabout, and then back into our box on the right hand side. Here it's what it looks like from the outside. Here is the inside of the garages, which would normally be lined with all the data equipment and TVs and drivers areas, etc., and obviously toolboxes. It's completely empty, and that's the same for all the garages in this little set of garages effectively. There's a PlayStation car looking mean and ready to go. Cannot wait. So Nico Jensen drove the car, the IGCT team last year, myself and Christian. Unfortunately, Christian is not here this weekend because of Norway's sort of travel restrictions and quarantine rules. So we're a man down this this weekend, which is a shame. So yeah, big shout out to Christian. Hopefully we can have him back for VLNs 2 and 3. And then in here is the whole data stations, which would normally be on pit lane and in the garages. Track conditions were super warm on the Friday test, so we were able to test the Yokohama medium and hard compound tyres. So it's good to be back in these mid-summer conditions, which we wouldn't normally have at the beginning of the year. And we got some productive stuff done. Mikkel got himself nicely settled into the car, ready for race day as well. So overall, a very productive Friday afternoon. And it was going to be a little bit cooler on race day, so that was good for us because we think that this would help our performance even more ready for race day. So yeah, early finish. And then ready for race day. Morgen! 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 Good morning from race day here at NLS 1 in June 2020. So season is finally kicking off. The pit lane is full, the new American pit lane is full. It's sunny over there. There's a thunderstorm coming that way in about 20 minutes, well, half an hour or so. Quali starts in 20 minutes, so it's going to be a rush out to get a lap in before the start of the rain, effectively. It's going to come pretty hard, pretty short, and then it's probably going to be dry for the rest of the day. Track temperature is going to be quite warm, so it shouldn't stay too wet for too long, but yeah, it's going to be about getting that lap in first of all, basically. So for anyone that's seen my VLN 3 lap, some serious lineups in the GT3 class today, so I'm looking forward to going up against those guys. Me and Mikkel are feeling good. The PlayStation car is looking fast. Let's go do this. Let's start 2020. So after a busy and up and down qualifying session with the weather, Mikkel was able to put the Walkenhorst 34 car P5, so we were right in the hunt when it came to starting the race.
Auf der 5. Position bis dato mit einer 8 Minuten 4,66.
And then finally, the 2020 season was finally underway, and I made an absolutely terrible start, which was very disappointing, showing my race rustiness. Just wasn't really on the back of the car ahead, and dropped a couple of positions going into turn 1. However, was feeling racy for the rest of the stint to really try and make up the lost ground.
Spitze, Dreifachspitze vielleicht sogar für Mercedes, weil der Phoenix Audi auf 2 überhaupt nicht gut weggekommen ist. Das HRT-Auto vorne, dann schon das Get-Speed-Auto mit der 8 mit dem französischen Trio und der 2er.
Sich frühzeitig Regenreifen, das wäre zu früh.
So elendig. Eine Achtung, Dreher vom Octane Ferrari, der Rowe BMW muss durchs Kiesbett. Hoffentlich wird da kein...
So it all kicked off in front of me. Luckily I was far enough back to be able to choose the correct side of the spinning Ferrari to make up that position and then make back the position past the Rover car also. Straight onto lap 2, I was past the Audi and then made the dive bomb move onto the Nordschleife up the inside of Marciello in the first Get Speed car. And then this happened.
Zu diesen allerschnellsten Autos zählt David Pittard im Schwedenkreuz. Jetzt die Attacke außenrum gegen Mathieu Vaxivière. Also Seite an Seite der Anflug aufs Schwedenkreuz ausgerechnet. Jetzt stockt da natürlich das Bild. Pittard außenrum im Schwedenkreuz. Jetzt die bessere Linie für das Anbremsen auf die Armbergkurve und er geht da vorbei. Was für ein fulminanter Start. David Pittard außenrum im Schwedenkreuz.
The big one, I'd done it again, outside of Schwedenkreuz of P2 in the race. Here you can see I had the run through Flugplatz as I was feeling a little bit more confident in the higher speed. Maxiviev goes to the inside and then get a little bit of side draft coming towards the first bump. I didn't think I'd be far enough alongside. I'm pretty sure Vaxiviev was going to back out, but he didn't. But then he gave me the room, and that then gave me the positioning into Arenberg, where I could then complete the pass.
So about this point here, I didn't think I was going to be a long enough side, but the side draft allowed me to pull alongside that last little bit, and you can just about see that my car is ahead of Maxivio's front wheel, and I was thinking, okay, I'm on here, but then I expected Maxivio to back out, but then he didn't. And I was like, oh my god, now I just got to commit. And then about here, I then thought, how much track have I got on the opposite side of this bump? You're never on this side of the circuit when you are trying to go through this corner normally, so I was hoping and praying that I knew the corner enough to be able to have enough room to then run across to the right hand side. Maxivio gave me enough room, so big thanks to him for doing that. And then after that I could just go full throttle. You can see when I saw the exit, I could just go full throttle in 5th gear, 225 kilometers an hour, and then that gave me the positioning for Arenberg. I just had to do a simple outbrake to the inside, and then I was away. So everyone thought that the manoeuvre on lap 2 was scary, however this was lap 4 with a back marker. I think this is the most scary one. You can just see me kicking up the dust on the inside of the E36 BMW. Here, coming into Schwedenkreuz, another car passing me, doesn't even see me coming, starts to close the door, and I have to throw it on the grass at 200 kilometers an hour. And then you can see the other guys behind chopped and changed so much also. Then Mikel got into the car. This is now 2 hours into the race, and we managed to make some serious time in the middle stint. Again, Mikel was being super racy here with the number 6 Merc on the inside, the 15 Audi in the middle, and then Mikel round the outside again through the Grand Prix section, up the inside into turn 4 to then gain the position. And then later on in the race, in the 3rd stint, we were able to jump and then lead for the majority of that stint, which then will give us a slightly longer pit stop going into the last stint. But Mikel had done such a mega job, we were properly in contention, and we think it was just us and the number 6 car. So quick driver swap in the pit lane, and then I was out for the final stint to go head to head with Maro Engel.
And David Pittard pressing on through those final sweepers. When will that number 6 Mercedes be released? It should be released now, but of course he's got to get up to speed. I seem to recall he did his pit stop halfway down the pit lane, so he's got further towards pit exit, out of the final corner, flat chat down the start-finish straight. It looks like the BMW is going to be in front. Mercedes still not yet level with the end of the pit wall, jinking around the gold BMW we saw in the pits earlier. Goes David Pittard. He's got a lead of about 5 seconds, I would suggest, because of course it's stretching as the black Mercedes number 6 tries to get up to speed.
So we always knew it was going to be close exiting the pits, but we managed to get a small gap of around 5 to 10 seconds or so, and then it was just qualifying laps for the final half an hour to try and hold off one of the fastest Merc drivers in the world.
The whole way around the lap there. And the order has changed.
It's changed, yes.
BMW is back in 2nd place. He's down by about, and that's before they've even got off the Grand Prix loop. So the move was probably made down around turn 1.
I was just going to say that no disrespect to David Pittard, done an amazing opening stint in that car. I still think he's the man for the job. But to have Mauro Engel breathing down your neck with the last 2 laps?
So with Mauro coming flying up behind me, I tried to put him to the outside. You just about see me in the mirror there, but fair play to him, he just completely did me on the switch splash there, and he came up so fast that I don't think I really had a case. You could see me fighting the car here. Yeah, conditions weren't necessarily suiting us so good, so yeah, we dropped back unfortunately, which I was pretty gutted about.
And as I'm just hearing that perhaps the race leader has got a time penalty. Oh my golly. Well, let's pay attention to the gap between them over the start-finish line. And as the information comes, oh dear, what a well, we don't know what it's for, but anyhow, at the moment, coming up to the finish, too short
a pit stop
time. Well, that's where the mechanic has to remember to get his fingers in the right order, pushing it across the line. So first to the finish by is Mauro Engel. His advantage, I wonder if Walkenhorst know they have to push on. How big will the gap between them, and how long will be the time penalty? So over the finish line, more like about 8 or 9 seconds, I think. Let's have a look.
So at this point here, coming across the start finish line, see me sort of gesturing with my hand, I'm absolutely gutted at this point. I feel like I've really let the team down because of being outdone and outraced, which I'm really gutted by. Halfway around the lap though, the message comes through that the Merc gets a 37-second penalty and we were the winners. So yeah, finally let my emotion out at the very end of the in-lap here as I then pulled into the new Parc Fermé. Really couldn't believe it. It was pretty mad in lap, going from one extreme emotion to the other.
Buy this piece of junk type of thing, because it's just cost him the podium basically. David Pittard on the other hand, the other extreme of emotion, just slapping the roof of that.
NLS 2020 winners. It took a long time, but we did it. Mikkel, mega stint. First time driving the Walkenhorst car on Yokohama's, and he was matching anyone and everyone through a double stint. First time back and straight into a double stint, and he absolutely smashed it. And yeah, the the HCP car got a penalty of some sort, I don't really know, but either way, brought it home for the lead. So yeah, exciting race, mega happy. Press conference now. Weird there's no one here though. I don't really know what to do or where to go. So here's the podium. This is the car. This is Mikkel doing the interviews, and as you can see, everything is empty. It's pretty crazy, but I suppose big thanks to all of the NLS fans for staying home. This is the key thing to get through all this crazy times, and you can get back to track sooner by staying home at the moment. So yeah, it's a shame not to have shared the PlayStation victory. It's the first victory for Walkenhorst with the M6 in all the years of it doing the VLN and NLS Championship. So yeah, super pleased to have got it. Mega to share with Mikkel, and hopefully more of him and also Chris when he's back. Big shout out to Chris Conyers actually, because yeah, without him this wouldn't be possible either, because he's done so much with the development of the car and the tyre in particular to make the Yokohama super fast and super competitive. So yeah, super pleased. Yeah, now let's go celebrate.
So, NLS 1 winners 2020, the first winners of a major endurance race at the Nordschleife since COVID, setting the bar for the year. Super pleased, super happy. Hope this sets the tone for the rest of the year. Let's go win some more races. Until then, make sure if you enjoyed this video to like it, and if you like more content like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and if you know someone that's going to like this, make sure you share it with them. Until next time, ciao ciao.